Chapter 1606. As soon as these words came out, the cultivators present were all dumbfounded. Bailey Hongzhuang will definitely choose Tiangang's sect, but the elder of Limitless Palace actually tried to recruit her. This is really strange. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance is so excellent. It is normal for the elder of Limitless Palace to want to recruit her, although it is useless. Bailey Hongzhuang is really famous this time. The elders of the major sects are all trying to recruit her. If only I had such treatment. A group of cultivators sighed. This kind of treatment was not something ordinary people could get. They could only be envious. Xia Jiqing and the others were also surprised after seeing this scene. The major sects were all trying to recruit her. This was what they had guessed before, but that was before everyone knew about Hongzhuang's identity. Now that everyone knew that Hongzhuang was Bewitching's fiancée, Limitless Palace still continued to recruit her. This was very interesting. Boss is really amazing to have such results. Xia Jiqing smiled. Dongfang Yu smiled slightly. I have a good impression of this elder of Limitless Palace. Yes, if we hadn't already set a goal, Limitless Palace would have been a good choice. Yuan Jixin's face was also full of smiles. It was really not easy for them to come this far. Now that he saw his boss achieve such results, he was also happy. In the distance, Mo Yinjue frowned after seeing Gu Taihong's actions. This situation was a bit strange. As the young master of Shitian Tower, he had a certain understanding of many people in the Xingxian continent. Gu Taihong was an important elder of Limitless Palace, so he naturally had some understanding. According to what he knew, Gu Taihong shouldn't have said such a thing. After all, this kind of recruitment did not have any meaning at all. It might cause Di Beichen to be dissatisfied. With Gu Taihong's smoothness, he would not do such a thankless thing. The only explanation was that there must be something fishy. While no one understood why Gu Taihong was doing this, Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. In fact, when she heard the name Limitless Palace, she already understood the situation. Master really sent someone to pick her up. Although Gu Taihong's words were not obvious, she still understood the deep meaning of Gu Taihong's words. However, facing the current situation, she could only reject Gu Taihong's invitation for the time being. She would make a trip to Limitless Palace after leaving the assessment. Elder, thank you for your appreciation, but I choose Tiangang's sect now. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed respectfully to Gu Taihong, her voice polite and gentle. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Gu Taihong understood what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. Looks like Bailey Hongzhuang wants to go to Tiangang's sect first. It was not that he could not understand such an outcome. With Bailey Hongzhuang's intelligence and wisdom, he believed that she would understand the meaning of his words. When the time came, she should go to Limitless Palace by herself. Thinking of this, Gu Taihong looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with more kindness. He had to say that Bailey Hongzhuang's humble and polite appearance was really likable. He was more and more approving of the palace master's choice this time. A young person who could satisfy the palace master would not be a simple person. Chapter 1607. Listening to Gu Taihong's words, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, "Thank you, elder. If there is a chance, I will definitely visit." The eyes of the elders of the top 10 sects wandered between Gu Taihong and Bailey Hongzhuang. They only felt that Gu Taihong was very special to Bailey Hongzhuang and was unusually kind. They had dealt with Gu Taihong on weekdays, but they rarely saw Gu Taihong treat a cultivator so well. Facing the doubts and guesses of the elders, Gu Taihong acted as if he did not hear them and said, "Since the top 10 cultivators on the list have made their choice, then the rest of the cultivators can start drawing lots to decide which sect they belong to." As soon as these words came out, the elders of the top sects also recovered their serious look. Since there was no hope of recruiting the first place, they also hoped that this time the sects could recruit some disciples with good strength. The cultivators on the list, please come to the front of the high platform. Hearing this, Gong Shaoqing and the rest of the cultivators on the top 100 ranking walked forward, looking nervous. In their hearts, they all had the sects they wanted to go to, but this was decided by drawing lots. This was completely a matter of luck. Among the top 10 sects, there was only one sect that they wanted to go to the most. This meant that they only had a 10% chance, which was very difficult. Xia Jiqing's heart was nervous. She did not want to be separated from the boss like this. The elders of the top 10 sects had obviously already prepared for the drawing of lots. The lots for the 11th to the 100th place had been placed in the box, waiting for them to draw lots. Based on the number they drew, the corresponding cultivator would be their sect's disciple. This situation was completely based on luck, but it was also a very fair choice. From the 11th to the 100th place, there was naturally a big gap in strength and cultivation talent. If they were lucky, it was possible to draw a cultivator who was very close to the top, but if they were unlucky, they could only draw a cultivator who was at the bottom. The elders of the top 10 sects looked at each other. This time, the results would depend on this moment. However, just as the elders of the top 10 sects were preparing to draw lots, Bewitching's voice suddenly sounded. "Elders, I have a matter that I hope you can make an exception for me." Bewitching's voice was magnetic and reasonable. His humble appearance was full of respect for the elders. Hearing Bewitching's words, all the elders said, "Young sect master D, please speak." As the young master of Tiangang's sect, Bewitching's status was naturally higher than these elders. The fact that he could speak to them so humbly and politely already made them feel flattered. Naturally, they would not have any objections. The cultivators of this team from the Tiangang dynasty represented my Tiangang sect in the assessment competition back then. Therefore, I wonder if the elders can agree to let them join the Tiangang sect together. Bewitching had a humble and polite smile on his face. This request was actually very normal, so he was not worried that the elders would disagree. As expected, after hearing this, the group of elders all agreed. Of course, that's not a problem. In fact, their sects also had internally selected cultivators, but the situation of each sect was different. Some selected cultivators did not need to prove their results at all. As long as the assessment was over, they could join the sect. Chapter 1608. After seeing that all the elders had agreed, the smile on Bewitching's lips widened a bit. Speaking of which, the performance of Xia Jiqing and the others had also exceeded his expectations. They had used their own achievements to prove their potential. He believed that in the future, they would become more and more powerful in Tiangang's sect and have a promising future. He had always understood the relationship between Xia Jiqing and the others and Hongzhuang. If they could all cultivate in Tiangang's sect in the future, he thought that his wife would be very happy about it. The cultivators of Tiangang dynasty will now stand directly in the team of Tiangang's sect. Gu Taihong's voice resounded in the central square and clearly passed into the ears of every cultivator. Xia Jiqing and the others, who were originally very worried about this matter, after hearing this sentence, their worries completely dissipated. The situation was much better than they had imagined. Bewitching has really prepared everything, we don't need to worry. Xia Jiqing cheered. She didn't want to be separated from the boss, and now she could finally rest assured. In the future, they could all stay in the same sect and cultivate together and grow together. Fortunately, Bewitching explained this point, otherwise we really can't stay in the same sect. Gong Shaoqing's cold face was covered with a rare smile. Everything that happened today was great news for them, and it was really delightful. Bewitching is our big lucky star. Xia Jiqing smiled. Along the way, Bewitching had helped them a lot. Although Bewitching had helped them because of the boss. If it weren't for Bewitching, they wouldn't have been able to participate in the assessment competition together. If it weren't for Bewitching, they wouldn't have been able to enter the same sect. Tiangang's sect, among all the sects in the Xingxian continent, Tiangang's sect was a famous existence. From this moment on, they were already cultivators of the famous sects in the Xingxian continent. Their identity would become completely different from before, and it could really be said that they would bring glory to their ancestors. Compared to the excitement of Xia Jiqing and the others, the faces of the remaining cultivators on the list became very ugly. A total of 90 cultivators were divided into 10 sects, which meant that each sect would only send out 9 people. Now that the cultivators from the Tiangang dynasty had already occupied 6 spots, it meant that there were only 3 spots left. The chances of entering the Tiangang sect were even smaller. One had to know that Tiangang's sect was also a sect that they yearned for. Many cultivators hoped that they could become a cultivator of Tiangang's sect. Originally, there were 9 quotas. At least 1 out of 10 cultivators could become a cultivator of Tiangang's sect. But now, after this incident, their hopes were almost cut off. However, no matter how dissatisfied everyone was, they had no choice but to pray that they were one of the 3 lucky ones. When Di Beichen saw the 2 unfamiliar faces of Yuan Xiaoman and Yuan Jixin, a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. Obviously, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman had joined Hong Zhuang's team later. He had never seen these 2 people before. The elders drew lots very quickly. Not long after, the 90 cultivators had been allocated to their respective locations. This time's assessment competition was considered to have come to an end. Chapter 1609. With Gu Taihong's words, some of the young cultivators present were happy, while others were sad. The cultivators who became disciples of the sect as they wished were naturally overjoyed. Their return this time was really glorious. Their relatives, their families, and even their dynasty would be proud of them. They would be famous and become the idols and goals of the cultivators in the dynasty. As for some cultivators who did not succeed in getting a ranking, they were a little sad. They came here full of confidence, but in the end, they did not get any results. However, at least they were alive to participate in the assessment competition. In the past 2 years, their cultivation had also improved a lot. All in all, they had gained a lot from this trip. Among all the cultivators present, only 1 cultivator had been standing in the same place, unable to get rid of the shock. This person was Bailey Haoshuan. He could not believe that the crippled prince he had been ridiculing was actually the young lord of Tiangang's sect. When he noticed Di Beichen on the high platform, he was already dumbfounded. In his eyes, those people on the high platform were unattainable people he would never be able to touch in his life. However, Di Beichen was in that group of people. This news was a huge shock to him. Tiangang's sect, what kind of powerful sect was that? As the young lord of Tiangang's sect, Di Beichen's identity and status were not what they could imagine. At this moment, he finally understood why Shenyuan Huan knelt to Di Beichen, and why the emperor and empress were also trembling in fear when facing Di Beichen. It turned out that Di Beichen's identity was so amazing. Such an existence, with just a casual order, Fengbo country would be turned into nothingness. However, he did not understand why Di Beichen, with such a noble identity, would appear in Fengbo country and become the prince of Fengbo country. No one explained to him, he could only secretly guess in his heart. Looking at Di Beichen holding Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, he understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was also so unattainable. Bailey Hongzhuang had become Di Beichen's wife and the young lord's wife of Tiangang's sect. This was too shocking, right? Shenyuan Huan's heart was also very bitter. With such a noble identity like Di Beichen, he still cherished Bailey Hongzhuang so much. Compared to him, what was he? At that time, he had humiliated Bailey Hongzhuang in every possible way. Speaking of which, he was really stupid. The top 100 cultivators in the assessment competition can now be called disciples. You will have a 3-month holiday when you enter the sect. Gu Taihong smiled and didn't say anything else. The competition had already come to an end. The cultivators cheered. They had worked hard in the assessment competition for 2 years and had been suppressed for 2 years. Now, they were hoping to have a holiday to let them relax. They felt excited at the thought of the 3-month holiday. However, what happened next caused the elders of the various sects and aristocratic families to be flabbergasted. Chapter 1610. Seeing this scene, Di Beichen and the others all had a strange look in their eyes. They already felt that it was very strange for the cultivators of Shitian Tower to appear in the assessment competition this time. However, after they arrived at the small world, they had been silent. Although everyone felt that it was very strange, they didn't say much. Now that they heard the words of the cultivators of Shirtian Tower, they also reacted. It turned out that the young master of Shirtian Tower was also participating in the assessment competition. After everyone knew this, their hearts became even more intense. Although they had never seen the young sect master of the Heaven Slaughter Pavilion, the young sect master of the Heaven Slaughter Pavilion had always been famous. He was also a very powerful existence. Why would he want to participate in the assessment competition? Isn't this too strange? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes changed a little, and a guess gradually emerged in her mind. In the next moment, under everyone's astonished eyes, a group of black figures flew over from afar and appeared on the high platform. However, these black-clothed people all had their faces covered, and it was impossible to see their faces clearly. With the appearance of the leader of the black-clothed people, the cultivators of Shirtian Tower knelt down and said, "Greetings, young master." The black-clothed people raised their right hand slightly, and the cultivators of Shirtian Tower stood up one after another. Bewitching's eyes that were as deep as the sea flashed with a stream of light. It seemed that his judgment was not wrong. The young master of Shirtian Tower was indeed participating in the assessment competition. However, looking at the figure of the young master of Shirtian Tower, he felt that it was somewhat familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. With the appearance of the black figure, Bailey Hongzhuang recognized at a glance that this person was Mo Yinjue. Even though he had never revealed his true appearance, his figure and his characteristics had never been hidden. They had been teammates for so long, and they had been together for so long. Naturally, she had a certain understanding of him. Mo Yinjue's gaze also fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. The two of them looked at each other. Mo Yinjue did not reveal anything, but directly withdrew his gaze. Gong Shaoqing and the others were also surprised when they saw Mo Yinjue. They also recognized Mo Yinjue. They had been together for so long that they could tell who he was just by looking at his back. Before, they had been wondering why Mo Yinjue suddenly disappeared and gave all his points to Hongzhuang. At this moment, they had completely understood. Shirtian Tower was a very extraordinary existence in Xingxian continent. Although they had always been very curious about Mo Yinjue's identity, they had never thought that Mo Yinjue would be the young master of Shirtian Tower. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but open her mouth wide. Mo Yinjue's identity was so powerful, they had no idea before. It's no wonder that Mo Yinjue was not afraid of the dynasty and directly stood to save them. It turned out that Mo Yinjue was such a powerful existence. Mo Yinjue was such a powerful existence. With his identity as the young master of Shirtian Tower, it was not difficult to stop the actions of the royal family of the Qing Shao dynasty. After Bewitching noticed the expressions of Gong Shaoqing and the others, his gaze fell on Mo Yinjue again. At the same time, Mo Yinjue also looked at Bewitching. When the two people's eyes met, Bewitching was shocked. He immediately recognized Mo Yinjue. He had to admit that when he was in the Qing Shao dynasty, Mo Yinjue had left a deep impression on him. This man had always been very aggressive, and he had never hidden his feelings for Hongzhuang. Chapter 1611. From the first time he saw Mo Yinjue, Bewitching knew that Mo Yinjue liked Hongzhuang. His eyes were sharp, with a trace of competition and alertness. He had never concealed his feelings for Hongzhuang. Then, in the conversation with Mo Yinjue also bluntly said all this. He had also investigated Mo Yinjue's identity, but Mo Yinjue's identity was hidden very well, leaving no clues. From that moment on, he already knew that Mo Yinjue's identity was not simple. With his methods, he could not investigate Mo Yinjue's true identity, which was enough to prove that the strength behind Mo Yinjue was not weaker than him. However, he did not expect that Mo Yinjue would be the young master of the Shirtian Pavilion. In the Xingxian continent, the Shirtian Pavilion was a very special existence, and the reputation of the Shirtian Pavilion's young master was extremely resounding. The only difference was that the young master of the Shirtian Pavilion had never shown his true face, so no one knew what the young master of the Shirtian Pavilion looked like. Even if he appeared in front of you, you would not recognize him. Mo Yinjue's identity was not what surprised him the most. He was surprised that Mo Yinjue would come to participate in the assessment competition. Almost immediately, Di Beichen already knew the purpose of Mo Yinjue's participation in the assessment competition. He came for Hong Zhuang. With Mo Yinjue's identity, there was no need for him to participate in the assessment competition. It could be said that no one in the assessment competition was his opponent. Then, the answer was obvious. If not, Xia Jiqing and the others would not have recognized Mo Yinjue at a glance, and their expressions were so surprised. Di Beichen and Mo Yinjue's eyes became sharp almost at the same time, and countless sparks of collision spread, but only the two of them knew. The tactile feeling between rivals was always obvious. Soon, Mo Yinjue took the lead to withdraw his gaze, and looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang, and then disappeared from the assessment competition with the cultivators of the Shirtian Pavilion. The elders on the high platform were also puzzled after seeing this scene. The cultivators of the Shirtian Pavilion rarely spoke, and even if they met, they would not greet each other. They had long been accustomed to this. However, what they did not understand was why the young master of the Shirtian Pavilion would appear here. The young master of the Shirtian Pavilion actually participated in the assessment competition. This is really a strange story. With his strength, there's no need to participate in the assessment competition. Is there anything special about this assessment competition? I don't know. The people of the Heaven Slaughter Pavilion have always had strange characters. This is the first time I have seen the young master of the Heaven Slaughter Pavilion. The elders shook their heads one after another. The Shirtian Pavilion was already famous for being a maverick, so they didn't take it to heart. Xia Jiqing and the others stared blankly at Mo Yinjue and the others leaving, but they did not say anything. Because the shock in their hearts was too great, they could not believe that the teammate they had been with for so long was actually the lord of the Shirtian Pavilion. They could naturally think of the problems that others could think of. Mo Yinjue did not need to participate in the assessment competition at all. With his identity, it was impossible for him to be excluded by the cultivators of the Qianfeng dynasty. He deliberately joined their team, walked all the way until now, and finally gave all his points to Hong Zhuang, and now left without saying a word. Chapter 16:12. Very quickly, Dong Xiaoqing and the rest understood. There was only one reason Mo Yinjue did this, for Hong Zhuang. From the beginning to the end, Mo Yinjue spent 2 years, wasted 2 years, and everything he did was for Hong Zhuang. At this moment, they finally understood why Mo Yinjue suddenly left. It was impossible for him to join Tian Gang's sect. Presumably, Mo Yinjue should have told Hong Zhuang this before he left yesterday. Thinking of this, everyone sighed in their hearts. Just from everything Mo Yinjue did, they could tell that Mo Yinjue truly liked Hong Zhuang. Unfortunately, Hong Zhuang already had Di Beichen, so there was no more chance. Regarding this, everyone could only feel that it was a pity. As for Mo Yinjue leaving so cleanly, they felt even more admiration. It seemed as long as Di Beichen wasn't by Hong Zhuang's side, Mo Yinjue would appear. He was like a flower protector, and when Di Beichen came, he would leave. But it was this kind of sacrifice and no request that made them even more amazed and impressed. How many people in this world could do this? Dong Fengyu's expression was very complicated. He knew that he couldn't do what Mo Yinjue did. Putting aside his identity, background, and status, everything he did couldn't be compared to Mo Yinjue or Di Beichen. With Mo Yinjue's noble status, he was willing to stay by Hong Zhuang's side as an ordinary cultivator. From the beginning to the end, he didn't ask for anything. This kind of sacrifice, who could do it? Master, Mo Yinjue left just like that. Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with a complicated light. It also didn't know what Mo Yinjue said to its master last night. But seeing Mo Yinjue leave just like that, it felt a little stifled in its heart. Don't think about it. It's best that he left. Di Beichen is the right man for master. Xiao Bai said. It admired Mo Yinjue, admired his determination. He knew what was best for master. To be honest, it liked Mo Yinjue, but Bewitching's feelings for Master weren't littles at all. The most important thing was Master's feelings. Baisher was silent and did not speak. He was very clear that his master liked Bewitching. No matter how much Mo Yinjue did, no matter how touching it was, their master's heart would not change. It would only make them sigh. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was complicated, but it quickly returned to normal. Bewitching held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. His deep and charming eyes stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, filled with deep love and tenderness. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a bright and beautiful smile. Perhaps she was selfish. Her heart only had room for one person. Let's go. Bewitching turned to look at the cultivators behind him and said. Hearing this, everyone nodded. They couldn't wait to leave the small world. In the next moment, everyone rushed out and left the small world. Under Bewitching's lead, everyone appeared in the Tiangang sect's territory through the transportation array. Because every assessment competition was organized by the 10 great sects, there was a transportation array at the exit of the assessment competition that led to each sect. Chapter 16:13. Listening to Bewitching's words, everyone nodded and couldn't help but look at Tiangang sect behind them. Just looking at the majestic Tiangang sect, everyone's heart couldn't help but be excited. After so many years of struggle and hard work, now they were finally going to become a member of Tiangang sect. Thinking of this, they felt that their bodies were filled with inexhaustible energy. They just wanted to roar out loud to vent their inner ecstasy. Bewitching had a faint smile on his face, and then handed the map to everyone. The route to Tiangang sect is drawn on the map, but this route can only be seen by you, do you understand? Understood. Everyone responded in unison. The news of your selection will soon be sent back to your respective dynasties, and the rewards of Tiangang sect will also be sent over. Presumably, before you arrive, these things have already arrived in advance. After working hard for 2 years, you can now relax for a while. If there are no doubts, you can leave now. With Bewitching's voice falling, everyone's faces showed a happy smile. Thank you, young sect master. Everyone respectfully bowed to Bewitching. Young sect master, goodbye. Speaking of which, their luck was extremely good. Other sects had elders come to greet the new disciples, but Tiangang sect's young sect master came in person, which was a very rare thing. All of this was because of Bailey Hongzhuang. In any case, as long as they went back and said that they had seen the young sect master of Tiangang sect, this was a supreme glory. Soon, the cultivators left one after another, leaving only Bailey Hongzhuang's group in the same place. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and smiled at Xia Jiqing and the others. Everyone has to go back to their respective dynasties to have a look. Now everyone is a hero. Xia Jiqing and others had smiles on their faces. As Hongzhuang said, they were really famous when they went back. The assessment competition was over, and their families must be waiting for their news. This time when they went back, it was really a glorious return. Boss, what about you? Xia Jiqing couldn't help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I have no need to go back. Now that she had nothing to do with Fengbo country, there was no need to go back. In the past 2 years, she had been worried about her parents. She didn't know how her parents were doing now. She just wanted to ask Bewitching about the specific situation later. Now that she had returned from the assessment competition, her strength had improved a lot, but there was still a big gap to compete with the Lan family and Yu family. Gong Shaoqing and others looked at each other. They were also very clear about Hongzhuang's situation in Fengbo country. Since they had already broken their relationship, there was no need to go back. Let's go back to the college together. No matter what, we are still students of the Azure Water School. Now that we are about to become sect disciples, we should go back and take a look. Dong Fengyu suggested. The reason why they were able to gather together and walk together until now was because of the Kanglan school, that the sect. As hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and others' eyes lit up. The principal and mentors of Kanglan College had always been very good to them. During the college tournament, the vice principal directly withdrew from the 3 major colleges for them. Chapter 16-14. When they left, the situation of the Kanglin College was not good. After all, the Kanglin College had always been known as the 3 major colleges with the other 2 colleges, and its reputation was very strong. But after the relationship with the other 2 colleges was severed, the state of alliance naturally did not exist. With the despicable actions of Lingyin College and Beihai College, they would definitely slander the Kanglin College. As a member of the Kanglin College, they naturally did not want such a thing to happen. Now that they had passed the assessment and become disciples of the Tiangang sect, they believed that they could also contribute to the college. Dongfang is right, why don't we go back to the college together? Xia Jiqing smiled. At the beginning, the principal had asked them to go back to their respective dynasties to try to get the opportunity to participate in the assessment. Since they followed He Mu to the Tiangang sect, they had not sent back any news. Now that all this was over, they should go back and explain. Looking at everyone's happy appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but turn to look at Di Beichen and ask Di Beichen for his opinion. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang tenderly and said, "If you want to go, then go back and see." "What about you?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. After 2 years of separation, they finally met again today, but now they were going to be separated again. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's lovely expression, Di Beichen chuckled and said, "Where you go, I will naturally go." He had missed Hongzhuang for so long, how could he bear the taste of separation again? In the past 2 years, he had always wished that he could stay by Bailey Hongzhuang's side. After tasting the pain of missing, he regretted that he should have participated in the assessment with Hongzhuang. At the beginning, he also had such an idea, but he still had a lot of things to do in the outside world. He needed to check the news. Only in this way could Hongzhuang be more at ease when she returned. Now he just wanted to stay by Hongzhuang's side and was not willing to be separated for a second. With Di Beichen's voice falling, a playful smile appeared on the faces of Xia Jiqing and the others. "Oh," everyone deliberately dragged out their words and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen ambiguously. Noticing everyone's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed a little, revealing a hint of shyness and helplessness. However, Di Beichen put his arm around Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and looked at the crowd calmly. "Hongzhuang is my legal wife. We are open and above board." Seeing this, everyone felt helpless. It had to be said that Di Beichen, as the young sect master of Tiangang's sect, had a thick skin. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and looked at Di Beichen. The smile in her eyes deepened. After 2 years, Di Beichen's character hadn't changed at all. "Since it's decided, let's set off now," Di Beichen said. "All right. Let's go. Let's go back." Everyone looked relaxed. In the past 2 years, they had never been so relaxed. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked all the way forward. It seemed that he was unwilling to let go. Bailey Hongzhuang could feel Di Beichen's emotions. She also held Di Beichen's hand. Chapter 16-15. They had watched Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walk all the way to the present. 2 years had passed, but the feelings between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had not changed at all. It could be said that their love was stronger than gold. They had also seen many people who could not endure the time. They had a change of heart after not seeing each other for a while. Such things were common, and all kinds of reasons could lead to their separation. Because they watched Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen being so firm together, they were full of blessings and envy. He Mu also walked together with Xia Jiqing and the others. With the young master and young madam together, he did not need to worry at all. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang also knew what everyone was thinking, but they did not refuse. They had not seen each other for 2 years, and they did have a lot to talk about. After everyone disappeared from sight, Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked with a smile, "I haven't seen you for 2 years, did you miss me?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes, only to see Di Beichen's handsome, angular face rippling with a trace of a smile, demonic and bewitching. Looking at Di Beichen like this, Bailey Hongzhuang deliberately said, "I don't miss you." Di Beichen's eyes changed a bit. "You really don't miss me?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked to the other side, nodded and said, "Naturally." The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly felt a force hit her. She stepped forward uncontrollably and fell directly into Di Beichen's arms. "You don't miss me, but I miss you." Di Beichen's gentle and affectionate voice sounded in Bailey Hongzhuang's ears. His warm breath made Bailey Hongzhuang's ears itch. Those affectionate words hit her heart directly, making her heart soften in an instant. "The days when you're not by my side feel like years." Di Beichen revealed his inner thoughts. In the past 2 years, he had been thinking about Hongzhuang all the time. Now that Hongzhuang had returned, he felt an unprecedented joy in his heart. At the same time, his feelings were complicated. He didn't know what Hongzhuang had experienced in the past 2 years, and Mo Yinjue's sudden appearance had also made him wary. After all, Mo Yinjue was also an outstanding man. In the Xingxian continent, he and the young master of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion had a resounding reputation. Sometimes, they were even called the two heroes. However, many people did not know who the young master of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion was, so his reputation was even more resounding. The Heavenly Slaughter Tower's young master had also done some praiseworthy things, but one was in the light while the other was in the dark. If Mo Yinjue was not the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion's young master, but the young master of some other force, he would be someone who received a lot of attention. However, he wasn't going to ask Hongzhuang this question. He only wanted to tell Hongzhuang how much he had missed her in the past 2 years. Facing such a serious and affectionate Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart melted. Her hands gradually wrapped around Di Beichen's back. The familiar fragrance from Di Beichen's body made her relax. "In the past 2 years, my mind has been tense most of the time. Only when I miss you do I feel the most relaxed. I don't know what has changed in 2 years, but I'm glad that you haven't changed." Chapter 16:16. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen's arms around Bailey Hongzhuang gradually tightened, tightly hugging Bailey Hongzhuang, as if he wanted to melt her into his bones and blood. Feeling the change in Di Beichen's strength, Bailey Hongzhuang also tightly hugged Di Beichen. Only in this way could they deeply feel each other's tension and longing. "I should be glad that you walked into my life. Wife, you are a gift from the heavens." Di Beichen reached out and rubbed Bailey Hongzhuang's soft silky hair. Since Hongzhuang walked into his heart, he only had her in his heart. There are thousands of weak water, but only one ladle can be taken. His wife was so different, thousands of women couldn't compare to her. To him, Hongzhuang was the most special existence in the world. Once, he felt that being forced to go to Fengbo country was the most frustrating time in his life. At that time, he was so frustrated. He didn't want to admit that he would never be able to stand up again. He kept looking for a way to cure him, but the results disappointed him again and again. In the face of Shen Yuanhuan, Shen Yuanjing and the others' ridicule and sarcasm, he didn't even have the thought of resisting. His will was once depressed, but in the end, he even gradually accepted reality. Even if he really couldn't stand up again, he didn't allow himself to be depressed. And Hongzhuang was the miracle of his life. When he first saw Hongzhuang, he only felt that this woman was really interesting. He clearly saw Hongzhuang throw Xiaohe and Xiaobai out in order to save him. To tell the truth, he stayed in Fengbo country for a long time. Shen Yuanhuan and the others teased him countless times, but no one said a word for him. And Bailey Hongzhuang was the first. The sun shone on her body, and her delicate little face was filled with a proud and sly light. It was because of this that he wanted to tease Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang's reaction was just as he had expected. It was really interesting. With his financial resources, it was impossible for him to go back on his word. However, he wanted to go back on his word to Hongzhuang. After that, he had walked step by step. His heart had been perturbed. How could a cripple like him be together with Hong Zhuang? However, he never thought that Hong Zhuang could help him stand up. From the moment they met until now, he felt that everything was arranged by the heavens. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a happy smile. It's good to see you again. That's great. Thousands of words turned into this one sentence. It's so good to have you. Whenever she was in danger, she would worry about what would happen if something really happened to her and she couldn't make it out of the competition. When she thought that Di Beichen was still waiting for her outside the competition, her heart felt an indescribable pain. Therefore, she tried her best to persist. This was her biggest belief. When she was trying to break through the 99th step of the celestial stairway, the terrifying power crushed her body and mind, and Di Beichen was the driving force for her to support herself. Di Beichen listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's words. His deep eyes became brighter, and the smile on his lips gradually rose. Hongzhuang, I love you. Di Beichen's eyes showed a deep affection. He loved Hongzhuang more than anyone else. Bailey Hongzhuang hugged Di Beichen tightly. She missed this hug so much. Xia Jiqing and the others were walking in front. They were very happy, and the smile on their lips couldn't be controlled. Chapter 16-17. When I return to the Xingxian continent, although it is still a forest in front of me, there is a familiar feeling. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a happy and comfortable smile. She was worried that she would never come back, but now that she saw everything in the Xingxian continent again, there was an indescribable excitement. Listening to Xia Jiqing's words, Dongfang Yu and the others couldn't help but nod. Their feelings were the same as Xia Jiqing's. In the past 2 years, they had always had their heads tied to their waists. If they weren't careful, they could lose their lives. Now that they could relax, the feeling was naturally very good. The biggest difference between here and the small world is that there won't be a large group of demon beasts here, so I feel a lot more at ease. Bai Junyu said with a smile. It was also a forest, but the number of demon beasts here was much smaller than in the small world. Walking in the small world, they would be attacked by demon beasts almost every once in a while. Their mental strength was always tense, guarding against any demon beast that might attack at any time. Under such a tense mental state, they naturally didn't feel good. In the Xingxian continent, as long as they didn't enter the demon beast mountain range, such a situation wouldn't happen. Now they had the mentality of going on a scenic tour. This kind of relaxation was really too comfortable. Compared to everyone's emotions and excitement, Gong Xiaoqing's thoughts were different. The spirit energy in the small world is much richer than here. Cultivating here, the speed of improving strength is a lot slower. Hearing Gong Xiaoqing's words, everyone couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Then they all laughed and said, Gong Xiaoqing's mind is really only filled with cultivation. If it was an ordinary person, they would feel extremely happy in such a situation. Only Gong Xiaoqing was different. Speaking of which, cultivation occupied most of Gong Xiaoqing's mind. Xiaoqing, we are already out of the small world. The major sects have given us 3 months of rest. You should relax. Dongfang Yu patted Gong Xiaoqing's shoulder. He was really helpless towards his brother. When he first met Gong Xiaoqing, he was like this. After all these years, there really hadn't been any changes. Dongfang is right. I think Miss Lu must still be waiting for you at the college. You should think about it. Bai Junyu said with a smile. Lu Qinyue's love for Gong Xiaoqing was in everyone's eyes. To be honest, with Miss Lu's conditions, to be able to firmly like Gong Xiaoqing was really true love. One must know that in the entire Zhanglan city, there were countless people pursuing Miss Lu. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly. Miss Lu is really infatuated with love, you can't let her down. As a woman, she also hoped that Lu Qinyue, who was so affectionate, would have a good ending. After all, Bai Junyu's Bai Junyu, Bai Sizes Ises loses Lu, S lose of the colleges lose S Bai's colleges use with lose, he's lose. After Yuan Xiaoman and Yuan Jixin heard the conversation between Xia Jiqing and others, they couldn't help but ask, who is Miss Lu? Chapter 16-18. Hearing this, Yuan Xiaoman and Yuan Zhixin immediately understood and immediately looked at Gong Xiaoqing with ridicule in their eyes. From the time they met Gong Xiaoqing until now, Gong Xiaoqing had always had a cold appearance, unapproachable. If they hadn't been in contact with Gong Xiaoqing for a long time and understood that he was a very good person, they wouldn't have known. If it was an ordinary person, just looking at Gong Xiaoqing's unapproachable appearance, they would have retreated. However, it had to be said that Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu were very charming men. In the days of the assessment, there were many women who admired them. Just by looking at their eyes, it could be seen. Fortunately, female cultivators weren't as exaggerated as male cultivators, they were more shy and shy. Therefore, Dong Fangyu and the others never had conflicts because of such things, but Hong Zhuang was often harassed by such things. I didn't expect that there was always someone waiting for Xiaoqing outside. You have to cherish it, Yuan Zhixin said with a smile. Looking at Boss Ndi Beichen's appearance, he also had an indescribable shock and envy in his heart. If one day he could find such a other half, it would be an extremely happy thing. 2 years had passed and they were not young anymore. If it was an ordinary family, they would have already married or had children. It was only because they were cultivators that they were a little late. However, seeing that cultivators of the same age already had someone they loved, they also felt envious. Yuan Xiaoman couldn't help but look at Bai Junyu. She only felt that it was time for her to express her feelings to Bai Junyu. After being together for so long, she was very clear about what kind of person Bai Junyu was. She was a very proactive woman. When she met someone she liked, she would bravely pursue them. If Bai Junyu didn't make a move, then she didn't mind confessing. After all, it wasn't a good thing to maintain this state. Back then, during the assessment competition, because there was danger everywhere, things like romance were naturally put aside. Now that they had successfully returned to the Xingxian continent, this kind of thing could be put on the journey. Gong Xiaoqing's expression was slightly complicated. Although everyone told him this, his feelings for Qinyue hadn't reached that point. He had always treated Qinyue as his younger sister. It was precisely because of this that they had never gotten close to each other despite being together for such a long time. He didn't want to hurt Qinyue. If his feelings for Qinyue weren't love, then even if he got together with Qinyue, it would only hurt Qinyue more. Obviously, no one knew what he was thinking, and he didn't want to say more. Most of the time, no matter how outstanding a woman was, no matter how good she was to you, if you didn't have feelings for her, she would still be a younger sister. He didn't want to disappoint Qinyue. At the very least, he had to be sure of his own feelings so that he could be responsible for Qinyue. Everyone saw that Gong Xiaoqing had sunk into silence, so they didn't say much on this issue. I really didn't expect that Imo Yunjue would actually be the young master of the Heaven Slaughter Pavilion. This is too shocking. Yuan Zhixin sighed. In the past, I have always admired the Heaven Slaughter Tower. They wander in the darkness and their information network is extremely terrifying. There is almost no one that the Heaven Slaughter Tower cannot kill. Chapter 16-19. Yuan Zhixin had heard about the Shirtian Tower before. Compared to the unattainable reputation of the major sects, they had heard more about the Shirtian Tower. This was because the Shirtian Tower accepted all kinds of tasks. No matter who you wanted to kill, as long as you could pay a sufficient price, they would help you complete it. No matter what you wanted to inquire about, as long as you could take out enough chips, they could help you inquire about it. It was precisely because of this that although the reputation of the Shirtian Tower was not very good, and those who had contact with the Shirtian Tower would not say it out loud, they had to admit that the information network and means of the Shirtian Tower were indeed shocking. He could not believe that not only did he know the young master of the Tiangang sect, but he had also been teammates with the young master of the Shirtian Tower for such a long time. Thinking of this, he had a feeling of disbelief. Yeah, I always thought that Imo Yunjue was very mysterious, but I didn't expect his real identity to be even more mysterious. Xia Jiqing sighed. She had never expected this result. Imo Yunjue's identity was so powerful. Originally, she thought that although Mo Yinjue was very good, he could not be compared with Di Beichen. Now she knew that Mo Yinjue and Di Beichen were on the same level. It was just that one was in the light and the other was in the dark, so they were not clear enough. She really admired the boss. The boss was really not an ordinary woman. Whether it was Di Beichen or Mo Yinjue, they were all legendary figures, but they both had deep feelings for the boss. If it were any other woman, as long as one of them liked her, it would be enough to make her happy. In fact, this kind of legendary figure could only be imagined in their dreams. In reality, it was impossible for them to meet him. However, all the way to the present, the boss was a miracle maker. Everything that was impossible had happened to Big Boss. Mo Yinjue has left this time. I'm afraid I don't know when we'll meet again. Bai Junyu sighed faintly. Mo Yinjue was also a good friend in their hearts. However, this time Mo Yinjue had left so suddenly and so decisively. Even though they already knew the reason, they still felt disappointed. Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangna looked at each other. Their feelings were very complicated. From the time they met Mo Yinjue in the Qing dynasty until now, all the developments made them understand the reason. They believed that Hong Zhuang didn't know about this at all. Just like them, Hong Zhuang only found out about this after the assessment. Thinking about it, Hong Zhuang would be even more shocked. Let's not discuss this matter anymore. Gong Shaoqing said in a low voice. The relationship between Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen was good. They didn't want to hear something that they shouldn't hear to affect their relationship. He Mu, who was hidden in the darkness, had already heard everyone's words clearly. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Young Madame's charm was truly boundless. The pressure on young master wasn't small either. Thinking about it, He Mu was relieved. Just by looking at young Madame's feelings for young master, he could see that she was wholeheartedly devoted to young master. There was no need to worry. After all, young Madame was a strange woman in the world. If not, young master would not be so infatuated with young Madame. Chapter 1620. Hearing Gong Shaoqing's words, Xia Jiqing and the others also reacted. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were behind them. Although there was nothing between Hong Zhuang and Mo Yinjue, it was not good if Di Beichen heard it. They didn't want to affect the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. They only hoped that they would always be together. You all go back to the college together. My brother and I have to go back to the snow country first. Yuan Xiaoman said slowly. Bai Junyu and the others were all students of the college. It was normal to go together, but they were not students of the college. Naturally, there was no need to go together. Do you want to go to the college with us to play? Xia Jiqing asked with a smile. Yuan Jixin waved his hand and said, You go, we won't go. Our family must be waiting for us to go back. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing and the others nodded, their faces showing a look of understanding. They had been out for so long, their family must be very worried. It was good to go back early. What's more, the snow country was much farther than them, and the time spent on the road was much longer than them. They were afraid that even if they went to the college and went back home, they would be about the same time as Yuan Jixin and the others. If Yuan Jixin went to the college with them, then they wouldn't have much time to stay at home. That's right, we should go back early to tell our family the good news. Bai Junyu said with a smile. Yuan Jixin's face was full of smiles. He had been out for 2 years, and he missed his family very much. Presumably, his family was also anxiously waiting for them to go back. He didn't feel much when he didn't go out before, but now that he had been out for so long, he felt how good it was to go home. He believed that his family would never have thought that he and Xiao Man would achieve such results. In the entire snow country, only he and Xiao Man survived. He believed that the royal family would definitely meet them. With all these things added up, he and Xiao Man would be very busy after going back. Yuan Xiaoman couldn't help but look at Bai Junyu. They wouldn't be able to see each other for 3 months, but in this situation, going home was naturally the most important. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen caught up with them. Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile, "What are you guys talking about so happily?" Xia Jiqing turned her head and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, and a sly light appeared in her eyes. "We were just talking about what you were whispering behind us." Hearing this, Dong Fangyu and the others couldn't help but laugh. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Xia Jiqing. Jiqing was becoming more and more naughty. In comparison, Di Beichen was much more indifferent. He had always been so open and aboveboard, but in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, he was just thick-skinned. Di Beichen only took Bailey Hongzhuang's comment as a compliment. After all, if he wasn't thick-skinned, how could he have directly abducted Bailey Hongzhuang? Looking at Di Beichen's unashamed appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang was completely helpless. She was completely helpless against Di Beichen. Seeing this, Xia Jiqing and the others laughed even more happily. For a long time, it had been others who couldn't do anything to Hongzhuang. It was rare to see Hongzhuang's helpless appearance. Speaking of which, Di Beichen was still the most powerful. Chapter 1621. When Bailey Hongzhuang and her party happily went to Kanglin College, Tiangang's sect's great elder Han Hongyi stood on top of Tiangang's sect, anxiously looking at them. The assessment competition was over, and Di Beichen personally went to recruit cultivators. Logically speaking, she should have come back by now. However, he waited for a long time and didn't wait for Shi Ling to come back. He couldn't help but feel anxious. Tiangang's sect's cultivators looked at Han Hongyi's appearance and knew that Han Hongyi was waiting for Han Shiling to come back. In fact, they were very curious about whether Han Shiling's performance or Bailey Hongzhuang's was better in this assessment competition. This matter had always been the focus of everyone's attention. Although other cultivators would not come to Tiangang's sect immediately, Han Shiling was a cultivator of Tiangang's sect. As long as the assessment competition was over, she would definitely come back. At that time, they would know the final result. At the beginning, the conflict between Han Shiling and Bailey Hongzhuang was very big. Everyone knew that they would compete in the assessment competition. Thinking about it, whoever's performance was better, whose voice would be louder, and the possibility of becoming the young lord's wife would be greater. After all, to be the young lord's wife required at least a certain amount of strength. If Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was not good, it was believed that everyone would oppose the young lord to be with her. No need to guess, it must be that Han Shiling's performance is better than Bailey Hongzhuang's. Han Shiling has been cultivating in the sect these years. Whether it is cultivation resources, experience, or vision, it is far better than Bailey Hongzhuang from an ordinary dynasty. If Han Shiling doesn't win, it doesn't make sense at all. That's not necessarily true. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance in the assessment array is very outstanding. Who among us can have a better performance than her in the assessment array for the first time? So what? Regardless of whether Han Shiling did better than her in the first assessment, at least what Bailey Hongzhuang can do, Han Shiling can also do. As everyone knew, Han Shiling had many opportunities to enter the assessment array. Her conditions and the resources she enjoyed were superior to Bailey Hongzhuang's. This was an indisputable fact. After all, there was no such thing as absolute fairness in this world. I think highly of Bailey Hongzhuang. Her words and actions are domineering enough and she's open and aboveboard. I believe in young sect master's foresight. For a moment, the crowd of disciples had different opinions. However, most of the cultivators stood on Han Shiling's side. It wasn't that they didn't think highly of Bailey Hongzhuang, but the gap between Bailey Hongzhuang and Han Shiling was too big. Almost all of the cultivators looked down the mountain. Logically speaking, the time should have arrived, and the results should have been known by now. As time gradually passed, Han Hongyi's brows gradually furrowed. He didn't know why, but he had a bad premonition in his heart, which made him anxious and on tenterhooks. It was because of this that he didn't wait in the hall, but stood outside to wait. Even though he had a bad premonition, Han Hongyi's rationality told him that there shouldn't be any problems at all. The other elders were also curious about the final result of the assessment competition. Hence, they all came to Han Hongyi's side. They were also curious about the cultivators who had been recruited in this assessment competition. Chapter 1622. Every time during the assessment competition, the elders of the top 10 sects would be very aggressive in recruiting outstanding cultivators. The assessment competition was a very valuable competition held by the top 10 sections. Most of the cultivators who stood out in the assessment competition had good results. What they were most curious about was who would get the first place in this assessment competition. For the top 10 sects, whoever could get the first place in the assessment competition was a very honorable thing. It's already late, why haven't they come back yet? That's right. The cultivators from the previous batches have all returned. Could there be any problems? Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang has fallen, so young sect master is not willing to come back? Everyone guessed. With young sect master's feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang, if something really happened to Bailey Hongzhuang, then it was normal for young sect master not to come back. Han Hongyi, who was in a bad mood, after hearing everyone's guess, his eyes gradually filled with a smile. If this was the case, then it was not unacceptable for young sect master to come back later. He believed that Shi Ling must have killed Bailey Hongzhuang. With Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, it was impossible to hide. Even if there was a problem in the middle, with the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang's group of cultivators, it was impossible to survive the assessment competition. At this moment, another figure appeared in everyone's sight. Looking at this figure, the disciples present all bowed respectfully. Greetings to sect master. The loud and orderly voice sounded in unison, containing respect and respect for C2 Yen. None of them thought that the sect master would come out personally at this time. Usually, it was very difficult for them to see the sect master. An existence like the sect master would not easily appear in front of everyone. It seemed that the sect master was also very concerned about the results of this assessment competition. After Han Hongyi and the others saw C2 Yen coming, they also bowed and said, "Sect master." C2 Yen waved his hand slightly, motioning everyone not to care. After that, he stood beside Han Hongyi and the others, and his eyes quietly fell down the mountain. However, there were no cultivators at the foot of the mountain. Now that even the sect leader has come in person, we can see how great his influence is. Do you think sect master supports young sect master or Han Shiling? Sect master has always been very good to young sect master. I feel that sect master will definitely support young sect master. That's not necessarily true. This kind of thing is not decided by the young master alone. The young master's wife and the young master both represent Tiangang's sect. Compared to Han Shiling, many cultivators were secretly disdainful of Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. It was just that if such a woman without any background became the wife of the young master of Tiangang's sect, it was really too hard to accept. At least, Han Shiling had been famous since young, so it would be easier for everyone to accept her being together with young sect master. The reason why they could not accept Bailey Hongzhuang was perhaps because they were jealous that they were not as lucky as Bailey Hongzhuang. Sect master, young sect master has not returned until now. I wonder if there is a problem. Qin Ai's eyes were filled with worry, and she could not help but ask. Chapter 1623. There was a worry in Qin Ai's heart. He had never doubted the young sect master's ability, and recruiting cultivators was a piece of cake for the young sect master. However, the young sect master had not returned for a long time. He was worried that something had happened to Bailey Hongzhuang. No one knew what had happened in the assessment competition for 2 years and what Bailey Hongzhuang had experienced. When the young sect master brought Bailey Hongzhuang back to Tiangang's sect, he knew that the young sect master had deep feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang. Although the young sect master had never mentioned this matter in the past 2 years, he could tell that the young sect master had always missed Bailey Hongzhuang. In the past, the young sect master did not smile much. It was only after Bailey Hongzhuang came that he noticed that the young sect master smiled much more when he was with Bailey Hongzhuang. After Bailey Hongzhuang participated in the assessment competition, he realized that the young sect master smiled even less, and it was rare to see him smile. He had watched the young sect master grow up, so he knew the young sect master very well. Just from the young sect master's performance, he could tell how much the young sect master liked Bailey Hongzhuang. He really did not wish for anything to happen to Bailey Hongzhuang. The young sect master had always been very sensible since he was young. He cultivated with all his might and was hardworking and outstanding. If there was a woman who could make the young sect master truly happy, he only hoped that the young sect master could be happy. He believed that the sect master had the same thoughts as him. The sect master had always been very satisfied with the young sect master, and he was very assured to hand the Tiangang sect over to the young sect master. Even if the young sect master's wife did not have enough power, he believed that the young sect master could support the entire Tiangang sect. She will be back soon. No expression could be seen on Si Tuyen's dignified face. No one knew that his hands had gradually tightened under his sleeves. Nothing must happen to Bailey Hongzhuang. Right now, he was almost certain that Bailey Hongzhuang was his granddaughter. He had always thought that he, Si Tuyen, was all alone and Di Beichen was his only family. However, he had never thought that not only did he have a daughter, he also had a granddaughter. Furthermore, his daughter and granddaughter had suffered so much over the years and he was completely unaware of it. Now, he only hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could return safely. He wanted to take good care of Bailey Hongzhuang and rescue his daughter and son-in-law. In fact, his heart was also filled with worry. He already knew what Han Hongyi had done back then, but he didn't expect Han Hongyi to do such a thing with his age and reputation. In order to let his granddaughter, Han Xiling, get everything she wanted, he actually bribed other cultivators to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. If something really happened to Bailey Hongzhuang, he would never let Han Hongyi off. Han Hongyi, who was anxiously waiting, suddenly felt a strong pressure and killing intent, and his heart couldn't help but tremble. Looking carefully, he didn't know where this feeling came from, and a puzzled light appeared in his eyes. Perhaps it was his illusion. While everyone was waiting, a figure slowly swept up from the bottom of the mountain and appeared in everyone's line of sight. Seeing this figure, Si Tuyen couldn't help but frown. He Ming. Greetings, sect master. He Ming bowed respectfully. As the young sect master's secret guard, he usually only listened to the young sect master. Chapter 1624. Si Tuyen raised his right hand slightly, indicating that He Ming was excused. As Di Beichen's secret guard, He Ming had always been by Di Beichen's side. Although Di Beichen had not returned, He Ming must have returned to report something. Han Hongyi and the others' eyes also fell on He Ming, wanting to know what had happened. Why hasn't the young sect master returned yet? Si Tuyen asked aloud. Reporting to the sect master, the young sect master has already let the recruited new disciples go back to rest. They will report on time in 3 months. Miss Bailey wants to return to the Kanglin College, so the young sect master also went back with Miss Bailey. The young sect master asked me to report the situation. As He Ming's voice fell, Si Tuyen quietly breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang returned safely, he could rest assured. It was also very good to have Di Beichen by Bailey Hongzhuang's side. In the past 2 years, he had also learned from Di Beichen what Bailey Hongzhuang had experienced over the years. He believed that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen would return after going to the Kanglin College, because other places were meaningless to Bailey Hongzhuang. Not only Si Tuyen, but Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing also breathed a sigh of relief after hearing that Bailey Hongzhuang was safe. In fact, they were all on the young sect master's side. When the disciples heard that Bailey Hongzhuang was still alive and that the young sect master had accompanied Bailey Hongzhuang back to the Kanglin College, their expressions changed a little. The young sect master really likes Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to go back to Kanglin College, so young master did not hesitate to accompany Bailey Hongzhuang back. Young master has never been so good to Han Xiling. That's right. It seems like Han Xiling can't win against Bailey Hongzhuang. So what if the elders don't agree? Young sect master's heart is with Bailey Hongzhuang. Everyone sighed faintly as they really didn't know what was so good about Bailey Hongzhuang to be able to make young sect master be so dead set on her. For 2 whole years, young sect master's heart had never changed. How envious was that? However, after Han Hongyi heard the news that Bailey Hongzhuang was still alive, his face instantly became gloomy. He couldn't understand why Bailey Hongzhuang was still alive. The original plan was obviously flawless. It was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to survive. What went wrong in the middle? Then why hasn't Shi Ling come back yet? Han Hongyi couldn't help but ask. Even if Di Beichen accompanied Bailey Hongzhuang back to the Kanglan College, then Han Xiling didn't need to go anywhere at all. He should have come back directly at this moment. Why was there no trace of him? Everyone's gazes fell on He Ming. They were also very curious about this. He Ming's eyes changed a little, but the words he said made everyone present completely stunned. Miss Han didn't walk out of the assessment. As soon as these words came out, everyone present was stunned. Some disciples even sucked in a breath of cold air. They couldn't believe what they had heard. Situ Yan's eyes changed slightly. There was a trace of surprise in the depths of his eyes, but it was not obvious. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing were in disbelief. They even wondered if they had heard wrongly. How could such a situation happen? Chapter 1625. Han Hongyi stared at He Ming's face and said, "What did you say just now? Say it again." Seeing this, He Ming continued, "Miss Han did not come back. This is impossible." Han Hongyi immediately refuted. This was simply impossible. With Shi Ling's strength, and Wu Yuxian and the others had been taking care of Shi Ling, how could there be a problem? What exactly is going on? Si-Tu Yen asked aloud. Since Sect Master asked personally, He Ming's answer was more specific. After Sect Master recruited talents in the assessment competition, he did not see Miss Han's trace. Until all the cultivators in the assessment competition left, Miss Han still did not appear. Miss Han should have already perished. Although He Ming used the word should, everyone was already very clear that Han Xiling must have died. Otherwise, Han Xiling would not have appeared until the end of the assessment competition. Did Wu Yuxian and the others come back? Han Hongyi asked immediately. No. Hearing this, Han Hongyi's face turned pale. He could not believe that Shi Ling would die in the assessment competition. With her reputation and strength, it was impossible for such a thing to happen. Even if Shi Ling's strength was not the opponent's, as long as she said that she was Han Xiling of Tiangang's sect, the general cultivators would not dare to make a move. It was because of this that he was assured to let Shi Ling participate in the assessment competition. Who would have thought that Shi Ling would not come back this time? At this moment, Han Hongyi finally understood why he always had an ominous premonition in his heart. It turned out that the problem was here. The disciples of Tiangang Zong who were present had been completely dumbfounded. They had never thought that Han Xiling would fall in the assessment competition. This result was completely different from what they imagined. Logically speaking, even if Bailey Hongzhuang did not come back, Han Xiling would not come back. However, now that Bailey Hongzhuang came out of the assessment competition safely, Han Xiling would never come back. Wasn't this ending a little too shocking? Oh my god, so Bailey Hongzhuang's strength is stronger? Han Xiling is actually dead. Now no one can compete with Bailey Hongzhuang. In my opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang was just lucky to come out of the assessment competition. Han Xiling must have met a powerful opponent to have an accident. Han Hongyi's face look was extremely ugly. Others did not know what was going on, but he was very clear. Logically speaking, he had already told Shi Ling that when the assessment competition started, she did not hesitate to kill Bailey Hongzhuang directly, so that she would not have any future trouble. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had now returned safely, but Han Xiling had fallen. Was it possible that Bailey Hongzhuang had killed Han Xiling? When this idea appeared in Han Hongyi's mind, even he himself felt that it was impossible. Because Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was not comparable to Xi Ling at all, and the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang's teammates was not comparable to Wu Yuexin and others. This was a sure-win situation. How could there be a problem? Han Hongyi's face became pale. He did not expect that his decision would lead to the death of his granddaughter. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing looked at each other. They did not know what to say about the situation in front of them. Because all of this was simply too unexpected. Chapter 1626. Hearing Qin Ai's words, Han Hongyi's face turned even uglier. He simply couldn't believe the fact that Xi Ling died in the assessment competition. Situ Yen also said, "Great Elder, my condolences." There were many uncertain things in the assessment competition. From the moment cultivators walked into the assessment competition, life and death were up to fate. Those cultivators who were able to walk out were undoubtedly lucky. However, there were also countless cultivators who died in the assessment competition. As cultivators, they had experienced far more things than ordinary people. They should have expected this kind of thing long ago. If it wasn't for Han Hongyi being too selfish, Han Xiling wouldn't have died in the assessment competition. All of this was karma. No one else could be blamed. Situ Yen continued to look at He Ming and said, "How's the recruitment of disciples this time?" This time, young sect master recruited a total of 12 disciples. Hearing He Ming's words, Situ Yen nodded slightly. According to the average, each sect should have recruited 10 disciples. Bewitching recruited 12 disciples this time. This result was extremely good. This meant that 3 cultivators in the top 10 chose Tiangang's sect. This was an extremely good result. Qin Ai and the others also smiled after hearing this result. In the past, most of the disciples recruited were around 10 people. They didn't expect the young sect master's recruitment to be exceptionally good this time. The top 10 of the top 100 had always been the targets that the major sects tried to recruit. This time, they recruited 3 people. Presumably, the other sects' expressions wouldn't be good. Which sect recruited the first place of this assessment competition? Gu Jingqing asked. The first place of this assessment competition had always attracted attention. The first place joined Tiangang's sect. As soon as these words came out, the elders and disciples present all revealed a joyful expression. Not only did they recruit a talent, but they also showed their faces in front of the other sects. Every time there was a big competition, the big sects would take pride in being able to get first place. Situ Yen nodded. The results of Bewitching's recruitment this time were really satisfying. Young sect master's appearance is indeed extraordinary. Gu Jingqing couldn't help but sigh. They had never had such good results before. It was really surprising. What's the name of the first place? Which dynasty is the cultivator from? Qin Ai asked with a smile. However, He Ming's next words stunned everyone again. The first place is Bailey Hongzhuang. As soon as these words came out, there was silence. Astonished gazes focused on He Ming. They didn't dare to believe what He Ming said was true. This was too surprising, right? How is this possible? How can Bailey Hongzhuang be the first place of the assessment competition? My God, this news is too shocking. Before Bailey Hongzhuang participated in the assessment competition, she had already said that she would surpass Han Xiling and let Han Xiling admit her strength in front of everyone. He Ming's Bailey Hongzhuang. First place in the exam, this result doesn't need to be confirmed by others. This already proves Bailey Hongzhuang's strength. Chapter 1627. When Si Tuyen heard this answer, he was also stunned. Bailey Hongzhuang was first place in this assessment competition. This result was really unexpected. With Bailey Hongzhuang's strength at that time, she was actually able to obtain first place after 2 years. This was really surprising. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing's faces also revealed astonishment. Even though they had always hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could obtain good results in the assessment competition, They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang could obtain such good results. This really exceeded their expectations by too much. The first place of the assessment competition was always a talent that was valued by others. How many cultivators participated in the assessment competition? It was definitely not easy to stand out among so many cultivators. Usually, the first place of the assessment competition was a cultivator from a large empire. They had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to achieve such a result. It was a bit too amazing. After hearing this news, Han Hongyi's originally pale face instantly became extremely ugly. He simply couldn't believe that Shi Ling had died in the small world and Bailey Hongzhuang actually became first place in the assessment competition. This was simply something that couldn't possibly happen. This is impossible. Han Hongyi immediately said, with Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, how could she obtain first place? There must be a problem in this. Following Han Hongyi's words, Si Tuyen and the rest all frowned. They didn't think that Han Hongyi would actually lose his composure like this. First Elder, the first place of this assessment competition was obtained by the cultivators with their own strength. How could there be a problem? Qin Ai's voice was slightly heavy. The assessment competition had always been fair and just. How could there be a problem? Han Hongyi couldn't care about this at this moment and said, Bailey Hongzhuang must have used some method. First Elder, you have no evidence. You're slandering people by saying this. Si Tuyen couldn't help but speak up. Even if Han Hongyi's granddaughter had died, he wouldn't allow Han Hongyi to insult his granddaughter like this. From the first time he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he liked Bailey Hongzhuang very much. He didn't know the reason before, but now he finally understood. This was the kinship of blood. Even though they had never met or interacted with each other before, there was an indescribable sense of familiarity when they met. The gazes of the others changed a little when they looked at Han Hongyi. In their opinion, Han Hongyi was slandering them. Even if this result was unacceptable to him, it was beneath him to say such baseless words. Hearing Si Tuyen's warning, Han Hongyi came back to his senses and quickly said, Bailey Hongzhuang probably asked her teammates to give all their points to her. That's why she could get such a result. Everyone's expression changed slightly when they heard this. If Bailey Hongzhuang really did that, it was not impossible. In fact, there were quite a number of cultivators who used such methods during the assessment. Many people felt that it was impossible for them to get on the list with their points. For the sake of the dynasty, they would give all their points to the same cultivator. This way, the possibility of getting on the list would be much higher. However, everyone couldn't help but think of Xia Jiqing and the others. The cultivation of Xia Jiqing and the others was not high. Even if they went to the assessment competition, their points would not be much. Chapter 1628. What the disciples could think of, the elders could naturally think of as well. In their opinion, the first elder was really twisting words and forcing logic. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang and Han Shiling had conflicts, Han Hongyi, as an elder, should not say such a thing. Not only did he lose his demeanor, but he was also making a joke of himself. Han Hongyi did not care about other people's thoughts at the moment and was completely stubborn. In any case, he could not believe that this was the true strength of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, He Ming's next words made Han Hongyi's face become even uglier. The sect master has already recruited Gong Shaoqing, Dong Fangyu, Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu back to the sect. As soon as these words came out, everyone could not help but be stunned for a moment. In their view, Bailey Hongzhuang being able to get such a result was already very surprising. The strength of Xia Jiqing and the others was absolutely impossible to climb into the top 100. As a result, could it be that the young sect master had recruited them back? No wonder there were 12 cultivators. Maybe this was the result of the young sect master's favoritism. Thinking of this, everyone's mood was a little bad. In their eyes, the young sect master, who had always been excellent and fair, should not do such a thing. However, He Ming's next sentence had already explained the reason extremely well, allowing everyone to understand one after another. Gong Xiaoqing, Dong Fengyu, Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu are all cultivators in the top 30 of the top 100. Among them, Gong Xiaoqing is 27th, Dong Fengyu is 28th, Bai Junyu is 29th, and Xia Jiqing is 30th. It is because of this that the young sect master recruited them back to the sect because they originally represented the sect to participate in the assessment. He Ming's eyes were cold. The great elder was already a stumbling block, and now he even slandered the young lady. It was really disgusting. Listening to He Ming's explanation, the disciples of Tiangang's sect were dumbfounded again. How is this possible? They are all in the top 30 of the top 100? Not only that, their rankings are very close. This is unbelievable. So, the great elder's previous guess is not valid at all. If Bailey Hongzhuang really took away the points of Xia Jiqing and the others, how could Xia Jiqing and the others have such results? This time, the performance of the Tsanglan College's cultivators is really amazing. What kind of fortuitous encounter did they have during the assessment? The crowd of disciples felt that it was inconceivable. Logically speaking, this was something that should be impossible. Among the cultivators present, there were some who had participated in the assessment competition before. They knew very well how difficult it was to climb to the top 100. Generally speaking, cultivators who could appear on the top 100 were almost all cultivators from large empires. Occasionally, there would be a few cultivators from medium empires who rushed up, and they were considered dark horses. However, Xia Jiqing and the others were just from a small or medium-sized dynasty. The Kanglan College was only famous in this level of dynasty. But to a large empire, such an academy had no influence at all. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were able to achieve such amazing results. This was simply too unbelievable. If possible, they really wanted to suspect if He Ming was wrong. However, they also knew that the possibility of them being wrong was close to zero. He had sent his granddaughter underground, but none of Wu Yuexin and the others had returned. All of this was retribution. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others must have used a conspiracy to kill Shi Ling and the others. Han Hongyi's face was full of anger. He only had Shi Ling left in the world. He brought Shi Ling up from a young age. From the crying child to the beautiful woman who grew up now, he had always been full of hope for Shi Ling and was proud of it. As long as Shi Ling became the wife of the young master of Tiangang's sect, then she would really embark on a broad road in the future. However, now Shi Ling was dead. All his hopes were destroyed. Chapter 1630. Han Hongyi couldn't accept all this at all. Originally, Han Shiling should have smoothly become the young sect mistress of Tiangang's sect, and as the great elder of Tiangang's sect, his position would be more stable. All these should be completed smoothly, but now, it was completely destroyed. He couldn't believe it at all. Hate. A strong hatred suddenly emerged in Han Hongyi's heart. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, how could he have fallen to such a state? All of this was ruined because of Bailey Hongzhuang. When he thought of this, Han Hongyi hated that he couldn't kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Han Hongyi's murderous intent didn't escape the eyes of Si Tu Yen and the others. It seemed that Han Hongyi also believed that Han Shiling's death was related to Bailey Hongzhuang. No matter who killed Han Shiling, it was a matter of the assessment competition. As everyone knew, everything that happened in the assessment competition was within the permitted scope. In fact, everyone understood that the reason why Han Hongyi let Han Shiling participate in the assessment competition was to let them compete. When the two fought, there would be people who were happy and people who were worried. Han Hongyi should have been mentally prepared. Si Tu Yan's eyes changed a little. It seemed that he had to be wary of Han Hongyi. His granddaughter, no one was allowed to have any thoughts about her. Great Elder, once you enter the assessment competition, life and death are up to fate. Out of the assessment competition, everything is no longer calculative. You should be clearer than anyone about this point. Si Tu Yen said slowly. Hearing Si-Tu Yan's words, Han Hongyi raised his head in shock and astonishment. He couldn't believe that the sect master would say such words to him. These words were clearly a warning. The sect master was warning him not to lay a hand on Bailey Hongzhuang. This meant that the sect master was standing on Bailey Hongzhuang's side. The disciples present were stunned for a moment after hearing the sect master's words. The sect master's attitude was to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. After a short moment of astonishment, Han Hongyi also understood. Now that Shi Ling was dead, no one would compete with Bailey Hongzhuang. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang had already proven her strength with the results of the assessment. In this way, she and young sect master could be said to be together in the right and proper way, without such a huge obstacle. Adding on to the fact that young sect master liked her, her position as young sect master's madam was practically secured. Everyone knew that the dead had no value. Even if Shi Ling's reputation in Tiangang's sect was so good, now that she had fallen, everything was meaningless. However, he was unwilling to give up. He was not willing to let his granddaughter fall like this. He was not willing to let Bailey Hongzhuang sit in the position that originally belonged to Shi Ling. He would definitely avenge Shi Ling. Han Hongyi had already made up his mind, but he didn't show it on his face. This was because the sect master and the others were already paying attention to him. If he made it too obvious, everyone would definitely be on guard against him. Therefore, he needed to plan everything at length. Sect master, I'm a little uncomfortable. I'll take my leave first. Han Hongyi said. Everything that happened today was too complicated. His heart was too chaotic. He had to go back and think about it carefully. Hearing this, Si-Tu Yan waved his hand and motioned for Han Hongyi to leave first. After Han Hongyi left, Si-Tu Yan glanced at Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing. The three people's expressions were somewhat complicated. Chapter 1631. Qin Ai and the others had been with Han Hongyi for many years. Therefore, they also had some understanding of Han Hongyi's character. Han Xiling had always been the person Han Hongyi cared about the most. Now that Han Xiling was dead, Han Hongyi would never let it go easily. It seemed that there would still be some troubles that needed to be solved later. Si-Tu Yan did not say much about this matter. Instead, he looked at the others and said, "Everyone, go back. Farewell, sect master." Everyone bowed. Si-Tu Yan slowly walked in the direction of the palace and disappeared from everyone's sight. Qin Ai and the other elders looked at each other and did not stay for a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would not come back for the time being. They did not need to be too worried. After the sect master and the elders left, the disciples of Tiangang's sect were in an uproar. I bet that Han Xiling died in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? At the beginning, they went as a team. Han Xiling and the others are all dead, but Bailey Hongzhuang and the others are all safe and sound? I think so too. I really didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would be so powerful. Do you think that they have hidden their strength before, just waiting for Han Xiling to participate in the assessment competition to get rid of him? Han Xiling is usually so arrogant. Compared to him, I think Bailey Hongzhuang is better. Everyone had different thoughts. The only thing they had in common was that they knew that the time for Han Xiling had passed. The next most influential woman in Tiangang's sect was Bailey Hongzhuang. Defeating Han Xiling, becoming the first in the assessment competition, and having the care of the young sect master, Bailey Hongzhuang's transformation from a sparrow to a phoenix was already set in stone. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked on a narrow path. They did not know what kind of shock their matter had caused in Tiangang's sect. In fact, Xia Jiqing and the others also wanted to know what kind of expression the great elder would have when he learned that Han Xiling was dead. That old fox actually wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop during the assessment competition. Fortunately, they had made great progress. Coupled with Di Beichen's protection, they had been able to walk safely until now. Come to think of it, the first elder's feeling of trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it must have made him collapse. For this matter, Xia Jiqing and the others only thought about it in their hearts and did not say it out loud. After all, Han Xiling was Di Beichen's junior sister. They had already made up their minds not to tell anyone about this matter. Even if everyone guessed that Han Xiling had died in their hands, there was no evidence, so nothing could be confirmed. At that time, no matter how much the first elder hated them, it would still be useless. Along with the increase in their strength, the speed of their journey had also increased by quite a bit. The next day, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman planned to say goodbye to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. "Boss, young sect master, we can find a flying beast as soon as possible and return to the Snow Origin dynasty, so we will take our leave here." Yuan Jixin's face was full of smiles as he said to Bailey Hongzhuang and Yuan Xiaoman. Now he only hoped to return to his family as soon as possible. When he thought of the scene of his family welcoming him back, he could not help but feel excited. Chapter 1632. You guys go, be careful on the road, see you in 3 months. Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and beautiful face rippled with a light smile like a breeze. She waved her hand at Yuan Jixin and Yuan Jixin. "Remember to say hello to brother Yuan and Liqing for me." Di Beichen also nodded. Now he already knew the identity of Yuan Xiaoman and Yuan Jixin. He didn't expect that Hongzhuang would meet the cultivators of the Yuan family in the assessment competition. It was really fate. "Boss, don't worry, we will." Yuan Xiaoman's face was full of smiles. If Liqing knew that she and the boss had become teammates and would cultivate together in Tiangang's sect in the future, Liqing would be excited to death. Xia Jiqing and the others also waved at Yuan Xiaoman. Their faces were full of smiles. In the future they would cultivate together in Tiangang's sect. After Yuan Xiaoman left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had been rushing, only hoping to return to Kanglin College as soon as possible. After 10 days of rushing, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally arrived at Kanglin College. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appeared in Kanglin City, there was a burst of exclamation in Kanglin City. "Oh my god, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others are back. It's already been 2 years. I heard that they went to participate in the assessment competition. Are they back safe and sound now? My Dongfang Sr. is still so handsome. I haven't seen him for 2 years, his handsomeness hasn't decreased. Gong Xiaoqing is still cold and chic. I feel that life is hopeless when they are not here." The eyes of the students of Kanglin College were tightly twisted on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. 2 years ago, the cultivators of the special enrollment class had always been their idols. However, since the beginning of the assessment competition, almost all the cultivators of the special enrollment class had left. There were only 3 people left: Lu Qingyue, Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan. The number of cultivators in the special enrollment class suddenly decreased so much, everyone was naturally very concerned. Many people guessed that they had gone to participate in the assessment competition. Now, 2 years had passed, and they had all returned. At this moment, everyone was almost certain that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had gone to participate in the assessment competition. Who are these people? Why is everyone so excited? When the students of Kanglin School saw the craziness of the other students, they couldn't help but have a strange look on their faces. Who was this person? Why was it able to make everyone so crazy? You don't know about this, but they are the cultivators from the special enrollment class 2 years ago. They are Gong Xiaoqing, Dong Fangyu, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, Bai Junyu, and Xia Jiqing. As soon as he said this, the students who were originally confused became excited. "Oh my god! Is that woman in white Bailey Hongzhuang? I came to the Azure Water School to cultivate because I knew about her performance in the inter-school tournament. I thought that I would never see them again. I didn't expect that I would have the chance to see them today. This is really a pleasant surprise. The cultivators from the special enrollment class are back." For a time, the students of Kanglin College went crazy. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others saw the excited appearance of the students of Kanglin College, their faces couldn't help but show a smile. Chapter 1633. We're finally back again. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with an excited smile. The scenes that happened 2 years ago at Sanglan College were still deeply imprinted in her mind. Now that they were back again, she felt an unspeakable joy and nostalgia. "Boss, this is where we met." Xia Jiqing pointed to the restaurant and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. If Tong Xingyi had not taken the initiative to find trouble with Boss, she was afraid that she would not have had the opportunity to become friends with Boss, and would not have reached this point. Speaking of which, Xia Jiqing was somewhat grateful to Tong Xingyi. Without Tong Xingyi, how could she achieve what she had now? Looking in the direction that Xia Jiqing was pointing at, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose a little as she said, "Yes, this is where we met." Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu looked at each other, their faces showing a big smile. "It seems that we are going to Elegant Cloud Residence to drink tonight. I haven't been back for so long, I really miss the taste of Elegant Cloud Residence." Dong Fangyu laughed. "Me too." Xia Jiqing agreed. "I want to eat too, I want to eat too." When the three beasts heard about food, they immediately became excited. In the past 2 years, they had been in a state of mental tension during the assessment. How could they have time to care about food? Therefore, they had been eating bland and tasteless dry food, which was really not delicious. If they had been living in the small world, they would really feel that life was boring. Now that they were finally out of the small world, they had been in a hurry before and had not had a good meal. Now that they had arrived at Sanglan City, they could finally eat delicious food. Looking at the excited appearance of the three beasts, everyone could not help but laugh. Speaking of which, the three beasts were really funny. No matter when, as long as there was food, they would be happy. Bailey Hongzhuang patted the heads of the three beasts and said, "Don't worry, you can eat as much as you want tonight." She knew that these three gluttonous guys had been holding back for a long time. Now that they were out of the small world, what was the harm in letting them have a good meal? Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasts looked at each other and the smiles on their faces gradually widened. "Long live Master! Master, I love you! Master, you're the best!" Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. These three little fellows were getting better and better at bootlicking. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at the appearance of the three beasts and felt that it was really interesting. Xiao Feng and Xiao Hu were still very young and did not have the naughty character of the three beasts. They looked very docile and cute. Looks like the three of them haven't been eating well during this period of time. Blackwood looked at the three beasts. Thinking back to when they were in the blood-ground abyss, the three beasts ate quite a lot every day. Seeing He Mu's appearance, the three beasties immediately jumped down from Bailey Hongzhuang's body and onto He Mu. Blackwood. Xiao He squinted her eyes and rubbed against He Mu. After being apart for so long, she really missed He Mu. Xiao Bai and Bai Shi lay on He Mu's body, their faces filled with bliss. Thinking back to the time when she was with Darkwood, they really had endless delicious food and lived happily every day. Now that they saw Blackwood again, they felt especially close to him. Chapter 1634. Xia Jiqing and the others saw that the three beasts were so enthusiastic about He Mu, and their faces showed surprise. It seems that the three beasts like He Mu very much. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with surprise. She had been with the three beasts for a long time, and their relationship was very good, but obviously not to the extent of He Mu. The eyes of Gong Shaoqing and the others also fell on He Mu. He Mu rarely appeared, and so far they had only seen He Mu a few times. When did the three beasts start to be so familiar with He Mu? Looking at the puzzled look of everyone, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and explained, "When I went to experience before, it was He Mu who took care of their food. Because He Mu gave them too much delicious food, they were particularly intimate when they saw He Mu. When participating in the assessment, she often heard the three little guys mention He Mu. Now that they finally saw him, it was normal for them to be excited. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, Xia Jiqing and the others recovered, and their faces showed a smile of understanding. So that's how it is. Bai Junyu chuckled. These three foodies, as long as there is food, everything is okay. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but laugh. In terms of delicious food, she was afraid that no contract beast could compare to Xiao He and Xiao Bai. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged, who made her contract beasts love to eat so much. Under the cheers of the cultivators, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others slowly walked into the college. Looking at the extremely familiar Azure Water School, every blade of grass and every tree here gave them a feeling of nostalgia. The seniors of the special enrollment class are back. Our college will be lively in the future. Go and inform the principal and the mentors. But all the students who knew Gong Xiaoqing and the others couldn't help but show excitement on their faces at this moment. It was really exciting to see such a famous person again. The news swept through the entire Zhanglan city like the wind, and everyone was talking about it. After all, everyone originally guessed that Gong Xiaoqing and the others had gone to participate in the assessment. Now that they were back, it meant that they had safely walked out of the assessment. Presumably, their strength had also improved a lot. They had only heard of the assessment, but almost no one could participate. Now that they could see the cultivators who participated in the assessment, the excitement in their hearts could be imagined. Special Enrollment Dormitory. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng were practicing in the room when they suddenly heard a noise outside. Both of them couldn't help but have a look of doubt in their eyes. Zhanglan College rarely had such a commotion. Could it be that something had happened? Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng opened the door almost at the same time. The two of them looked at each other, their eyes flashing with confusion. What's going on? Zhang Yunfeng frowned slightly. Such a huge commotion was a little too frightening. Cui Haoyan shook his head, his face full of thoughts. With such a big commotion, something big must have happened. Let's go out and take a look. Zhang Yunfeng nodded. Okay. It wasn't just Cui Haoyan and Li Tianlan. The students who joined the special admissions class later also ran out after sensing the commotion. They had never encountered such a thing before, so they couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. Chapter 1635. Senior Cui, what's going on? The new students of the special enrollment class could not help but ask after seeing Cui Haoyan appear. Yeah, what's going on? All the students looked at Cui Haoyan in confusion. In the entire special enrollment class, Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng had stayed in Kanglan College the longest and were also the strongest. Usually, no matter what happened, it was Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng who informed them. Therefore, they were used to asking Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng for everything. Hearing everyone's questions, Cui Haoyan shook his head. I don't know what happened. Let's go out and see. Seeing that Cui Haoyan was not clear, everyone's eyes were filled with surprise. Then what was going on? Let's go out and see. Cui Haoyan said and walked forward with Zhang Yunfeng. However, before they walked out of the dormitory building, a figure rushed in. Seeing the person, everyone's eyes lit up and asked, Xiaoyingjie, what's going on outside? Xiaoyingjie looked at the curious crowd and said with a sigh, it's said that the cultivators from the previous special enrollment class have returned. Everyone is cheering. Hearing this, the new students of the special enrollment class could not help but be puzzled. Cultivators from the previous special enrollment class? Those were the students who had already graduated. Why did their return cause such a stir? Could it be that after they graduated, they would also cause such a sensation when they returned? However, after hearing Xiaoyingjie's words, Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan could not help but look at each other. A bright light appeared in their eyes. It must be Gong Xiaoqing and the others. Cui Haoyan immediately said. Zhang Yunfeng also nodded. Thinking about it, only Gong Xiaoqing and the others could cause such a sensation in the college. Thinking back to when Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu were in the college, Their reputation was extremely resounding and attracted thousands of students. Later, after Gong Xiaoqing and the others left, the students of Kanglin College lamented for a long time. Now that they had returned, it was normal to cause such a sensation. Yes, it's them. After hearing this familiar name, Xiaoyingjie quickly nodded. After getting Xiaoyingjie's affirmation, the smiles on Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yinfeng's faces deepened. They immediately rushed outside. After not seeing each other for 2 years, they really missed this group of old friends. Xiaoyingjie and the other newcomers looked at each other. They had also heard of the reputation of Gong Xiaoqing and the others, but they never knew that they had such a great influence in the college. Wasn't this commotion a little too frightening? While Cui Haoyan and Wang Yao rushed out excitedly, the same thing was happening in another place. Alchemist Association. Lu Qingyue was refining pills. These days, she had been a little restless. She forced herself to calm down and refine pills. Back then, Big Brother Gong had left to participate in the selection for the assessment competition. Later on, Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng had returned with a piece of news. Brother Gong and the rest had all gone to participate in the assessment competition. For the assessment competition, she could only wait here for 2 years. She didn't know much about the assessment, so she kept asking her master about it. Chapter 1636. As Lu Qingyue continued to talk and listen to the news of the previous assessment competitions, the more she understood, the more worried she became. According to what everyone said, the assessment competition was extremely dangerous and losing one's life was a common occurrence. With so many talented cultivators gathered together, the slightest bit of carelessness could cause one to stay there forever. Every time she heard such cruel news, her heart would tremble. She was afraid that if Big Brother Gong never came back, what should she do? As the 2 years gradually passed, the worry in her heart became more and more intense. Before the 2 years were up, she could still comfort herself. But now that the 2 years were up, if she still didn't see Big Brother Gong, it meant that Big Brother Gong had encountered danger and might never come back. Thinking of this, Lu Qingyue felt uncomfortable in her heart, so uncomfortable that even breathing was difficult. As the days passed, her heart became even more chaotic. If Big Brother Gong didn't come back in a few days, then there really wouldn't be any hope. Therefore, she only hoped that time would pass slower, so that she could continue to wait with hope. At this moment, a figure quickly ran into the Alchemist Guild. "Miss Lu, Gong Xiaoqing and the rest are back." Hearing this, Lu Qingyue couldn't help but be stunned. That delicate and beautiful face was instantly filled with ecstasy. She didn't care about the pill she was refining and quickly walked to the cultivator's side and asked, "Is what you said true? Are they really back?" "They're back, they're really back." After hearing the other party's confirmation, Lu Qingyue's eyes revealed an unconcealable ecstasy. She waited for so long and finally waited for Big Brother Gong to come back. Luckily, they walked out of the assessment competition safely. In the next moment, without waiting for the cultivator to react, Lu Qingyue had already rushed out of the Alchemist Guild. The cultivator stared blankly at the direction Lu Qingyue left in, his face filled with doubt. He had never seen Miss Li lose her self-control like this. "Chi!" A muffled sound came from the pill furnace, following which, a burnt smell spread out. The cultivator stared blankly at the pill furnace that emitted an unpleasant smell. Miss Lu didn't even care about the pill. At this moment, Lu Qingyue only had one thought in her mind, and that was to quickly see Gong Xiaoqing. As for medicinal pills or other things, she didn't care at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked all the way forward, and not long after, 2 familiar figures appeared in front of them. Looking at the 2 figures, the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others showed a smile. "Cui Haoyan." Dong Fangyu smiled. Cui Haoyan walked up and gave Dong Fangyu a punch. Then, under the astonished gazes of the students, the 2 of them hugged each other. "Good boy, you came back safely." Cui Haoyan joked, but his face was full of joy. When he left Heavenly Dipper sect, his mood was extremely complicated. On one hand, he felt that he couldn't fight side by side with Dongfang Yu and the others. On the other hand, he was worried that he wouldn't be able to see them again. Fortunately, now that everyone had returned safely, he could be at ease. Zhang Yunfeng also walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing, her face full of joy. Hongzhuang, Jiqing, you're finally back. Chapter 1637. When they were cultivating in the academy, their relationship was very good. Now that they had not seen each other for 2 years, they felt happy to see each other again. How have you been in the Kanglin Academy for the past 2 years? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. Zhang Yunfeng nodded and then shook her head. Except for not being able to see you guys, everything else is very good. When only she and Cui Haoyan returned to the Kanglin Academy, they could not help but feel a sense of loss. They had been with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others for so long that they had long been used to being together. Now that only the two of them were left, they naturally felt very bored when they returned to the academy. Although the academy later recruited new students and the special enrollment class also had new students, it was not the same for them. Without familiar companions, they felt very bored when they cultivated. It was precisely because of this that now that they saw everyone back, they could not help but be happy. Ha, Yunfeng, you really know how to talk. Xia Jiqing teased. Zhang Yunfeng's eyes were serious. I'm telling the truth. The next moment, Zhang Yunfeng's eyes fell on Di Beichen again. When she first learned about the identity of Di Beichen at the academy tournament, she was already very shocked, but it was not until she went to Tiangang's sect that she really understood what kind of person Di Beichen was. Now that Hongzhuang was out of the assessment tournament, Di Beichen also came back with her. It could be seen that the relationship between the two was still very good. Thinking of this, the smile in Zhang Yunfeng's eyes deepened. Look, their relationship with Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng is so good. Gong Haoyan and the others and Cui Haoyan are students of the same batch. Their relationship is naturally very good, but they later went to participate in the assessment tournament, so they were not in the academy. I don't know how Gong Haoyan and the others did in the assessment tournament. Now that they are back, everyone's welcome is really a bit scary. I don't know, but I think that the cultivators who can come out of the assessment tournament alive are already very good. Everyone was talking about it. It was rare for the academy to be so lively. They were curious. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were busy catching up, a gentle and pleasant voice suddenly rang out. Brother Gong. This call was filled with urgency, joy, and longing. Upon hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all turned to look. They were very familiar with that voice. Other than Lu Qingyue, who else could it be? Turning around, everyone saw Lu Qingyue standing not far behind them. He saw that Lu Qingyue was still wearing a hibiscus-colored dress. Her delicate and beautiful face was the same as before, but it was even more beautiful and moving. Her face was slightly red and her forehead was covered in sweat.